Hi, everybody. Welcome to Leading Cyber Ladies event. It's so exciting to see you all. I would like to go through. Can you remove the echo? No? Okay, never mind. Let's go to the next slide because I would like to. Yes? I think speaker is a little bit off. Throwing up. Yeah, I can use the mic, but speaker is, that's better. Thank you so much. Okay, so welcome. I know it's been a while. Some of you seen us before, visited us before all the closures, maybe virtual events, and welcome back to in-person events. So next slide, please. So who we are, I'll walk you through a little bit. Those are pictures from the past events. We are chapters around the globe. You can see images from Toronto in the middle, me and Nitika there at the bottom. Nitika is also co-founder of Leading Cyber Ladies Toronto. We have on the left Karen Lazari, who started the movement back in 2015 in Israel. And so there's chapter in Israel as well as UK, US, and Japan. We have new chapters in Japan as well. And yeah, go next slide, please. So who are we? We are community of women in cybersecurity. We are here to inspire you, to bring you together, to open opportunities, open networking opportunities, maybe jobs, connect you with people, help you learn about different cybersecurity topics, and also provide you opportunities in a friendly environment to speak in cybersecurity. And maybe some of you have been doing something, would like to share your knowledge, please reach out to me and we will arrange a session and you will speak as well. Next one. Yeah, so started in January 2015 in Israel, and chapter in Toronto launched first time in January 2019, just a few years later. And hello there. And we've been running every month. We had monthly events in Toronto. Some other chapters had quarterly or so events. And then during the last 2 years, it was more virtual, not every month, but we kept it going still anyway. Like I said, around the globe chapters, we have new participants every event, so welcome new people here today. Very glad to see new and faces from before as well. We are partnering with businesses and communities, community partners. So today we have sponsorship from TSOM, Toronto School of Management. We are here. They are providing this wonderful facility for us. And also we are sponsored today by CyberX, who is actually raffling the tickets today. 2 tickets to upcoming cybersecurity conference for women in Canada, but not only. So we have social media. I'm pretty sure you've seen us online. So just pass the word to others and follow us. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's our chapter in Toronto Leads. And a little announcement about Nitika. Nitika unfortunately couldn't make today because we have a very new LCL member, the newest ever newborn member. She had a baby in March. So congratulations to Nitika. If you're watching us, we are with you. You are with us in our hearts. And hopefully we will see you soon and maybe even with the baby. By the way, it's a girl. Next one. Community partners. So we work with different partners, like I said, within Toronto community and beyond. We participate in different conferences. For example, at upcoming conference, we'll have a booth as well. And same happening with other conference like Sector. And of course, we recognize other chapters and groups who inspire and lead women in cybersecurity, like WISIS, for example. So we are not silent, we're working together, and we working also with our communities like DEF CON. Next. Great great things about sponsors. So, of course, the facilities, right? The snacks when we have events. But also, we move around Toronto. So when we have in-person events, and even if it's virtual, we are not linked to any one particular company. We are working with all kind of businesses. And this gives a very great opportunity for attendees, for our members to meet those businesses, to build that network, to grow as professionals, maybe find a job, right? Because there are a lot of companies who are hiring and they're looking for new talent. So it's a great opportunity to come around, see how they work, see their office, meet actual people in that company, and network together. Next. So what's coming up in Toronto? Two things. So DEF CON is end of month. It's an in-person event. They also been not in person for the past 2 years or so. And it's a very fun event. It's Jeopardy game. You can see it live, yeah, how people are playing and sparkling with their bright minds, answering questions very fast. It's so much fun. But also, I would like to encourage you to participate in this game because, like I said, we need more talent, we need more women in the field, and we would like to have also participants from our memberships who would like to come there and play the game. It's super fun. I'm not sure exactly if I'll be there. Still have to figure out a couple things, but if I will definitely participate. And we have upcoming Canadian Women in Cybersecurity Conference organized by CyberX. And could you please go to the next slide? Exciting thing about this conference, well, it's 2 days, it's in one. There is tremendous preparation is happening for it. There are so many speakers, so many networking opportunities and learning opportunities for this conference. As you see, there's so much, so far 23 topics, and it's counting. They are the more speakers as we speak. 60 plus speakers, and we're expecting 400 or more attendees for that. And next slide. And the great thing about this, that we have a discount because we're partnering with CyberX conference. So if you're looking for a ticket, there are different prices also there for students, general admission. And today, like I said, we'll raffle 2 tickets among those who came in here. So you have an opportunity to attend it for free. And by the way, LCL will have a booth, like I said. So we'll also look for some volunteers to help us with the booth during the 2 days. And it's a great opportunity for these volunteers, members of LCL, to attend, help, and really share the information about our chapter. Okay, next. Now we reached our panel. Unfortunately, Melissa couldn't make it today, but we have everybody else. I would like to call on the panelists to sit down in the chairs here. And we won't do interrogation, but I have a few questions. So Kelley, Victoria, Tatiana, and Gabriel, please join me on the stage. So how this will happen, I will pass over the mic because without mic, I'm afraid people online will not be able to hear you. And I would like to start, and we'll pass over one by one, and then I'll come and pick up to ask my next question. I'd like to start and asking you to introduce yourself a little bit, what you do and why the cybersecurity topic is important to you. And we'll start with Victoria.
Thanks so much, Helen. Thanks so much for having me as well. This is so exciting. This is actually my first event in person since the pandemic started, so I'm very awkward and very excited for this. So I'm Victoria Granova. I'm founder of CyberToronto. We do an annual conference that is free and open to all. It's a virtual conference, and Leading Cyber Ladies is one of our amazing partners for that as well. In my day job, I do cybersecurity risk at a FANG company, and I'm also a psychology, cybersecurity, management student in a PhD program in Ryerson University currently as well on a part-time basis. And I love cybersecurity. It is my passion. I actually switched over from accounting into cybersecurity quite rapidly a few years ago. So here I am, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with all of you. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here too, and I'm so happy to see people in person. And I love cybersecurity. I always say I'm a cybersecurity enthusiast, not an expert, because I feel like I'm still learning a lot. And I work with Helen through CyberX. We met. We've spoken at some events together. We sit on a committee together. And this is our first time to meet in person, even though we've been working together for about 2 years. So it's quite exciting. I'm happy to be here. My name Kelley Irwin, up there, and I am the CIO at the Electrical Safety Authority, and one of my accountabilities is cybersecurity, and our board of directors is extremely interested in what we're doing to protect the company against cyber, with a lot of extra focus lately with what's happening globally, and the energy sector is quite concerned about hacking and what can happen, because if the energy sector gets taking control of, it impacts everybody's life. So it's not like you can't buy something from Amazon or you can't get, products at the stores. It's that you sort of can't live if you don't have energy for your houses, cars, and everything that you rely on it for.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's my first time having an event in person in Toronto. So yeah, it's so good to be here with you. I'm Tatiana from Brazil. Right now I'm sales engineer at Trend Micro. I help customers, especially about cloud challenges, when we are helping them to have a better security posture in this situation. And yeah, it's so nice to be here. It's a totally new experience for me. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And on behalf of TSUM, welcome, Leading Cyber Ladies. We're very happy to be having the event here with everyone. I am Gabriel. I'm the academic manager for Toronto School of Management and IT, so that covers digital marketing, data analytics, and cybersecurity. So a little bit of transition from industry now to academia. And at least in my role now, it's really to get students to learn about cybersecurity. And really, for me, it's always a joy seeing that light bulb go off when students start learning something new. They start picking up their interests. So thank you.
I just want to ask everybody, you can hear, should we put the speaker on? Is it good enough? Okay, good. Great. So thank you for this introduction. And I would like to go with my first question for you. And our theme today is challenges and opportunities in cybersecurity field as we're experiencing them today. Right? And the first question, based on your experience and what you've seen, how, in your opinion, cybersecurity evolved in the past 2 years, right? And given the world situation of pandemic, but not only, right? And I'll start with Victoria again.
I feel so special. I'm always first. So definitely a lot of changes to cybersecurity, just overall, of course, with working from home and the expanded and differing, I guess, landscape, but also a lot more partnerships and third-party, third-party vendor involvement across the industry. So that also introduces a new kind of elements to consider, right? You kind of expanding your environment by partnering with other vendors, having the other vendors integrate with your environment, all that good stuff. So there's definitely been a lot of interesting changes, but I won't go into too much depth. I want to give opportunity to pass down the line. Are we doing sequentially? Okay. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Thanks.
We'll go backwards later. Yeah, I think with the pandemic over the last 2 years, we've all been impacted in so many different ways. And from a cyber view, I think there's sort of two sides of that I see. One is that the demands on companies to protect their assets has changed because people are working in places they weren't working before. But also the expectations from customers and employees has changed, because I work at a company where we had 0 people working at home 2 years ago, 0. And over 72 hours, we had 500 people working at home. I didn't even know if they all owned laptops the day I was told you need to send everyone home tomorrow. What do you need to make that happen? And I went, holy cow, like, we're so not prepared for this. and our employees expected. I walk in my house and everything works like it did in the office yesterday with no plan in place, right? So the expectations from people are different. And then I would say the political landscape has made us all much more aware of cyber expectations from the community in general. And if you think about it, we expect when we see something on social media, we expect when we see something online that's a political message that it's true and accurate. They may be trashing their opponent, but we assume that it's truly from the person it came from. And so to think about the fact that people are hacked and messages that are going out are not from the person that you think they're from, and that, there's so many things that are happening with photos and with even print that is not from the person you thought, or not exactly the way that it's being portrayed, and that it's been hacked. I know everyone in this room understands how it's actually not that hard to make happen, and it's not that hard to hide when you've done it, but the general public does not understand that.
So in addition to the last situations, I think that we can see cyber security tasks changing a bit about who is handling that. So before of this time, usually just cybersecurity teams were responsible for that, and now we can see development team, application teams handling other activities, not only about apps, but about how we secure that. So before of that, we see information security people telling how to do that, and now we see developers having more responsibility about securing code, using tools for obfuscation, following best practices. It's not only about cybersecurity people anymore. So yeah.
Actually, Kelley, I've heard that from a lot of CISOs and different managers in IT, that it was like an overnight change. There were their managers calling them and saying, "Oh, you have to go online tomorrow." In fact, before I joined academia, when I was working in industry, the same thing happened to me when the pandemic hit. I got a call from the owner saying, "You have to put everyone online immediately," and it was a test. It was a very true test to see if you were ready for it or not. On the academic side of things, one thing that has really surprised me is the number of cybersecurity programs. 6 years ago, you could not find a cybersecurity program in almost any institution, and now it's almost like grass seeds. It's like everywhere. You can't go to a single school without finding some sort of IT or cybersecurity program, which I think is great because it now gives more opportunity for students to be able to get into the industry and to learn about it. But on that note about finding out what's fake or not online, I think other companies with maybe malicious intentions have taken advantage of that. So you have to be careful with where you choose to go academically, I would say.
And no worries, I'll stand here for a moment so we can go this way. I hope I'm not. Maybe I can stand here. Anyway, I'll walk around. So the next question I have is, what the loudest cybersecurity event that you think we have experienced in the past 2 years that either shaken us up, or maybe it was an opportunity in terms of technology, yeah? So world has changed and a lot of attacks been, but maybe there was something that registered in your mind. I'll start with Gabriel.
The first one that comes to mind is Log4j. Actually, I remember I had a meeting that day, and I didn't even get the news, but like that was the first thing we started talking about. And it was just in my circle, I have friends who are developers, and that was something that was like definitely hitting up the chats. But one thing that always surprises me every year is just social engineering, because the social engineering really has been around always, but the medium and the strategy and the sophistication always changes. So it'd be those two, Log4j and social engineering.
I was going to talk about this one too. I think Log4j was a big flaw because we release on open software and we usually don't think about the maintenance of that. So we use that, and when we need to improve the security about that, we don't do special care about that. And when this vulnerability come, everybody was, whoa, it's so close to Christmas Eve. I was thinking that I will have some time to rest, and now we need to patch all our systems. So I remember that time I was working for a credit score company, and I was testing many applications that was public facing, and everybody in the field was doing the same because it like affected since security endpoints to cloud applications. So we are kind of crazy with that, and it like bring a lot about the way that we are using open source in our environment. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll talk about one that's like not in the news because it's something, I'll say it this way, it's like brewing, so not happening yet. But I was at a briefing about 2 weeks ago, and the topic, they had FBI and CIA people there who were participating in the conversation, and they were talking about how the electrical sector in North America, so Canada and the US, has been infiltrated by the Russian government. So they haven't done anything, they haven't attacked, and they haven't suppressed the services, but they're, in their words, sniffing and seeing what's happening. So, what they're looking for, we can all guess. We don't know the answer, but, probably patterns and usages where the most impact could be. The good news is, and I don't have all the details behind the sort of government agreements, and Helen may have more on this, but there's actually agreements worldwide between countries that if you attack the electrical sector of another country, it is a declaration of war because it's so understood how that would impact lives, right? And if you just think about it, personally, you go, I'm at home and the electricity goes out. You may think very frequently. It actually doesn't happen very frequently in Ontario, but you may feel like it does. And we have some examples where it's happened for 2 days or 3 days, and it's horrible, right? You think I can't live. I don't have anything to do. I can't watch TV. I can't use my computer. I can't use my phone. I'm running out of battery. I have to go in the car and charge it, right? We have these momentary things of what's important, and when we think about it, that's not life and death, right? So think about it this way. If you're in the hospital and you're on life support, that's electricity, right? So there are life events that would be impacted immediately if the electricity grid was attacked, and that's why there are these agreements. So do we think it will happen? No, but can it happen? Yes. And so those are the kind of things that really worry governments and really worry the companies that are putting out these kinds of services. And, I'm in the electrical sector. It would be the same for gas. It would be the same for some of the other things like telecom. If that was taken out countrywide, what would happen to people? We think again about, I can't call my friend or I can't text my friend, but it's more about how people connect for life events that are actually critical, like calling 911 and getting service like that. So those kinds of services that are foundational in Canada and just sort of work, we don't really think about them being attacked, but the risk is always there.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's so interesting that, similar to energy, but also like the financial sector and the medical sector, we don't really think about those that often, or I guess we don't speak about them as often. And they're just, such targets for attacks and can impact like life and death situations. What I was going to mention was one of the attacks in 2020, which is SolarWinds. When that happened, that really shone a big light in terms of. So just a quick recap as to what SolarWinds was. So essentially, SolarWinds is a vendor. It does IT monitoring or monitoring of code. It was really, really cool services. One of its updates to its service was compromised, and so when it was released into thousands, so like 30,000 companies, that malware was, spread to those companies. So that was an interesting, I guess, case study because that kind of shone a light in terms of how. Yeah, of course, interesting and in a way, but it definitely shone a light in terms of like we are dependent on our third parties and their security as well as ours. So that made that third party security topic a big trend in that year, and it's continued since then. So interesting. But yes, all of these are very serious topics. If we say interesting sometimes facetiously, but this is definitely something that helps us grow and learn as a cybersecurity industry.
Thank you. And all those events, yeah, they were quite impactful. They're changing how we grow, as you mentioned in cyber, right? Solar winds. And that leads me to my next question. How would you recommend? So, Kelley, you talked about critical infrastructure, yeah? So, how do you think companies should focus, what they should focus on to prevent, yeah, those kind of risks, to build the resiliency around? And when we talk about software supply chain, which is SolarWinds, Log4j, yeah. So what do you see that companies, organizations should do to build that resiliency and stand up to those attacks to prevent them? So let's go with Victoria.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, for sure, it's that whole theme of defense in depth, right? Layered security, looking at process, people, technology, making sure that, you know, when you're looking at security, you are looking at people. So speaking of social engineering, my favorite topic of research, or current topic of research actually, yeah, making sure that people are educated and there are durable processes around the people, the human aspect. We are, you know, we talk about humans, you know, oh, humans are the weakest link. We are the humans we are talking about. So, you know, approaching that aspect of security with compassion is super important. But you know, with making sure that processes are durable, but making sure that there's layered security so that if one control fails, the others will catch it. But I've been going on for a while, so I will pass it along just sequentially. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're right. We're the humans, and it leads me to education is first and foremost. And at our company, we implemented education. We changed it from doing a once a year, you do your cybersecurity training. Everybody rolls their eyes. Oh my God, this is so horrible. It takes so long. It was a 30 or 40-minute education session. And we've switched that to do monthly education, and it's between 2 and 5 minutes. And it's sort of fun. We partner with a vendor. I'm not here to sell their product, but know before. And they do sort of these fun clips, and we've gotten great reaction from it. But they also do measurement of what is your risk factor before and after the education program. So within 1 year, we went from at 18% risk. So 18% of our employees were clicking, opening, and in some cases entering credentials. 18%. I thought I was going to like throw up that day, because you go, wow, the risk is so high on things that we as professionals would be surprised most of the time. Why would you click that? Why would you do that? Why would you think that? So I go, you know, education, protection, and restoration. So we need to educate people to reduce the risk. We need to protect as much as we can, putting all kinds of controls in place, knowing it's going to fail. So what's your restoration plan? And I've been personally involved as a CIO twice in a cyber attack. And I can feel my blood pressure go up when I talk about it, because I can remember how I felt. Our company, in one case, it wasn't horrible. It was 24 hours of pain and suffering with no production impact. In the other case, it was 72 hours. And I am telling you, literally 72 hours, I did not sleep. I sat at my kitchen table. I would put my head down and like doze off for 12 minutes and then get back on a call. I had worldwide support from vendors to get through this incident. They had taken over 70% of our servers and laptops, and we did not lose any data. We did not lose any customer data. But there was a moment in the middle of that where even my specialists and vendors and security experts and forensic experts were telling me to close the company. And I'm like, unless you tell me you're calling my CEO to tell him we're closing, we're not closing, we're not giving up, keep working. And we, you know, after 72 hours, we found laptop 0, who the person was, how it happened, what it was, and how to protect it. But it's scary when you're in the middle of it. You hear this stuff in the news and you're like, oh, how could that happen? How could they let that happen? It's humans, right? It's one person, this incident that was 72 hours of people around the globe solving this problem. It was one person in our organization who clicked one link and exposed us to something that was one of the viruses that was morphing. So as we were finding it and fixing it, it was morphing and continuing on. So, you know, I think for every organization, the most important message is be prepared to restore. It's going to happen.
Very good points. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, when we talk about supply chain, the situation is that the attack released in a trusted relationship, so it's hard to detect because you trust that software and you don't look for that like something suspicious. So thinking about the person that is using this software, you could apply zero trust. I think that many companies are talking about that right now, and it can help a lot because you can improve your posture in different ways since identity management using MFA and all this kind of stuff, and network security, like looking for all connections in a different way, looking for something suspicious, malicious of that, and instead of trust all software inside your network, but especially permissions for each one of them. And for the company that maybe was breached, it's important to, I think that code obfuscation is something that not all companies use right now. So when you obfuscate your code, it's hard to do reverse engineer. So you can use that, and always is very good to talk with your development team to improve best practices, because sometimes we rely on some special vulnerabilities that it could be avoided with some measures that wasn't that hard to do. So I think these two are big ones.
I think you all covered a lot there, but there's some points that were brought up that I do appreciate, which is like the human element in cybersecurity. And there's something that I like, which is the human firewall, and letting your team know that cybersecurity, not just your team in IT, but also in the whole company, cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. And passing that information along, letting them know that they're a part of that, I think kind of changes their attitude towards it. Because I remember having to do training as well, as like letting them know what a phishing scam is, or what to do in case something's going on with your computer. And of course they roll their eyes. It's like, oh, I got to deal with these guys. But letting them know that, hey, this is a shared responsibility. It's not just one department that has to look after this. It's a shared responsibility, and passing that idea of like you are the first layer of defense as a human firewall, then getting that kind of involvement from your team is what really makes a difference. But there was one CTO I was at a talk who mentioned that it used to be that there were two types of companies before, those who have been hacked and those who haven't been hacked. But now it seems that the trend is it's those who have been hacked and those who don't know that they've been hacked yet.
Still doing a little dancing around here in front of the camera, but thank you for sharing this information. It's very interesting to hear all your perspectives, yeah, and different areas where you are in education, software, critical infrastructure, right? I would like to move, and I already heard some kind of pings into the human element, right, and education, and definitely that's something that needs to be done. I would like to move into question about the talent, right? So in the past 2 years, a lot of things changed. We cannot compare anymore what's been 2 years ago, right? So how did that impact our talent growth? Is it more, do we see more opportunities with this, or do we see more challenges? And I would like to raise a topic about women, and especially I know from my experience, a lot of my colleagues who especially had little kids had a lot of challenges, while others may had more opportunities. So what should we do in our field to balance it out and help excel and still keep bringing more diversity in our field? I'll start with Gabriel. You didn't expect it, yeah?
Addressing the part about how, on an academic side, there's ample opportunity now to be able to start learning something new. I mean, there's so many outlets online to be able to learn anything new. With regards to how that's affected us in the past 2 years, stay-at-home moms, people who are working remotely, they now have the ability to be able to access new skills and be able to learn online. I'm a big advocate for online learning. I think the strides that we've come across to be able to make it more accessible, much easier, and not just that, being in environments where they really make it feel like a classroom even though you're online, it can make the difference. As for being able to address the gender gap, I think having events like this having conversations like this is very important. Bringing people on bringing people early on to things like this. I brought my daughter tonight, and so I hope in the future she'll grow up to join the cyber teams, join the cyber ladies.
Thank you. So I think that breaking stereotypes is so important because usually people think about cybersecurity is something for that guy with a hood in front of a computer, and when we see women doing that, we feel represented. And I can see more initiatives now than before. So like this meetup is so nice because we have a safe place to ask questions and talk about what we are going on in the field, like women together. It's so cool. And like a company, one initiative that Trend Micro has, and I was part of that. So is Close the Gap. We sponsor and give mentorship and all this kind of stuff. There are programs for training. So I was hired in Brazil in a program like that, and they tried to hire like half woman, half men to have more balance. It's so important too. And Cyberwoman Challenge is another one. So I think that right now it's more Latin America, but maybe we can bring that to Canada if we see a room so full like that. So it's like, don't be afraid about playing capture the flag games, for example. Oh, but I need to improve my hacking skills. Do that, like trying. Don't be afraid about making mistakes. I think that it makes totally difference when we are inside this field. So, like every hacker, it has a lot to do about trying different things, and I think that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, really good points you're both making. I think there's a lot in that question, Helen. So I'll try to stay focused. I could talk for hours about women and diversity and tech and cyber. First thing I would do is give a challenge to everyone here. Talk about it. Talk about it to other women. Talk about it to young girls. Every time I meet a young girl, no matter what she says she likes to do, I say, you should go into tech. I don't care what she's doing. I don't care if she's playing with crayons. I go, you're creative. You should go into tech. You're analytical. You should go into tech. Because their moms and dads might not be saying it. And how many young people don't go into tech because they didn't think of it as a career. So say it. Say it all the time. I spoke in front of a group of women who were, this is like a life-changing moment for me. Spoke in front of a group of women who were in computer science in universities across Canada. There were about 400 of them in the room. And I was just talking about, what is it like to manage a team in IT. And one brave young woman put up her hand and she's like, I'm so happy that you're here talking to us. And I was like, okay, was there something particular I said that resonated? And she said, no, I'm happy you look like a girl. And I was like, I'm standing on this stage thinking, I don't know how to respond to this because I don't feel like I'm particularly girly. I don't know if this is good or bad. I don't know if other people in the audience are thinking this is good or bad. So she went on, and then, I had a conversation with her afterwards too, and she said, we get so used to seeing speakers who don't look like us. We get so used to seeing speakers who are old white men. We get so used to, she said, for us to look at you and think, maybe I could be a CIO one day. So talk about it. Let other people know that you're in tech and that you're in cyber and that it's fun and that there are other people who are like them is the most important thing that you can do. And for all of you to know there's other people like you too, right? So to be at an event like this, you realize that, like, oh, I'm not alone. This is really awesome. And it's great to have male coworkers, but it's also great to have female coworkers. And then the last thing about opportunities over the last 2 years, the last 2 years have been hard on everybody in different ways. I think the tech opportunities in general and cyber opportunities in particular have exploded. So there are so many jobs, there are so many openings, so many companies looking for people with the skills that you guys have. If you're not happy, don't stay. That's all I tell people these days. If you're in tech and you're not happy, there's another job waiting to embrace you, right? And I don't mean walk in tomorrow and quit your job. I never want someone to quit without the next job unless you're being, physically abused or something. But look for that other opportunity. And there's moments, and I've had these in my career, and I always tell people, there's moments you think, this culture needs to change, I'm the one to change it. And there's also moments you say, this culture needs to change, it's too big for me right now, and it's okay to leave. You don't have to be the person that takes on the fight. Maybe you want to be, maybe you don't. It's okay both ways.
Thanks so much. And such a great discussion. Like it's so true that representation matters. Having women on stage as a woman matters. I just want to give a shout out to Leading Cyber Ladies. I think this is the first time I ever spoke in front of a crowd about cybersecurity was at a Leading Cyber Ladies event. First time I spoke at a conference was the Women in Cybersecurity conference. Yeah, so it's at CyberX. It was so important that to have those opportunities. So thank you so much for all you do, because like having these educational events that are, you can just come in, you can learn, you can see other folks represented on stage. So important. When I was going through I joined the inaugural class of the York University Cybersecurity program, and by the time I finished, I was the only woman in the class. But I remember there was one point there was a career panel, and there was one woman that came on the career panel, and she shared her story about being, very much into electronics. Her story doesn't really resonate with me, but the fact that she was in terms of like, I wasn't a technical child, or I wasn't into technology as a child growing up, but she was there and she was a woman, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I felt inspired to finish, continue this, and then to be involved in, cybersecurity events like this, and then to start, another educational kind of, organization like CyberToronto, and be in cybersecurity. It's so cool. This is so cool. So thank you all so much for being here, for organizing this. It really, truly matters. To actually answer your question, I went on a bit of a tangent there. To actually answer your question about how the pandemic has changed, I guess, our career opportunities. So LinkedIn usage has increased dramatically since pandemic started. And me being active on LinkedIn, that has given me, increased my visibility as a candidate as well on LinkedIn. And what I want to mention is that if you're not already active on social media or active and interacting with other folks or interacting with events, start doing that, because that being visible in a virtual environment is really helpful, and that's been really helpful for myself as well in my career, and and also getting opportunities like this to speak on a panel. This is really cool. But no, that's one opportunity that I've experienced, and I want to encourage other folks that yes, there are some drawbacks, and there is a really important issue of harassment online for folks who are very visible online. So I just want to kind of mention that, so that we need to acknowledge that is a real issue that especially women face. But at the same time, not at the same time, I just want to say there are drawbacks, but there's also great opportunities there. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. It's great. So you heard the challenge. I hope everybody will take on the Kelley's challenge and talk about cybersecurity. I personally have seen also opportunities and challenges. So skills online, I think it's got easier. It's definitely easier that you can learn so much from there. So get your hands dirty, participate in online CTF, right? Look for some trainings, maybe videos and so on, and learn about it, right? But also some challenges with, balancing your life, because now we have everything virtual, and it's blurred between your personal life, your family, your work, and also the risks that companies may have with that, because now you're talking perhaps confidential stuff in front of your spouses or whoever you live with, right? And they can hear you. So I think those are very great challenges, and we will open floor to questions. But I would like to ask one more question our panelists about, so given everything that's happening, the risks and the talent gap, still we're working on that, right? What you think we should focus on now, as today, the state of cybersecurity we are at, the focus in order to leap to the next more evolved state of cybersecurity, the better one, right? So maybe what cybersecurity future is for you in some way. So go wild, but yeah. It would be interesting to hear your opinion. So Victoria, we'll go with you.
What does the future hold? It's a great question. A great thought and discussion. I just want to say, in terms of one of the things that we should keep doing as cybersecurity professionals or even as non-cybersecurity professionals out there listening in, is keep talking and raising awareness about cybersecurity because, people, we are, as humans, we are the strongest. We can be considered as the weakest link, but we have the potential to be the strongest link. So, and that is done through awareness, through education, through raising. Keep talking about cybersecurity. Keep talking to, young students about cybersecurity as a career, and keep harvesting all that, talent and energy, so to keep our, ourselves, our individuals, our families, our organizations safe. Hope that answers the question. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, I think that was great. What's the future? I think if I fast forward 50 years, right? Like what's the future? I don't think we'll say cyber anymore because it'll just be ingrained, right? And we think if you go back not that long ago, go back 20 years, we talked about people who were computer literate and people who weren't. And now, do you know anyone who doesn't use a computer? I mean, my 82-year-old mother who is on the computer more than any of her friends and is like giving me updates on my niece because they're on Insta. And I'm like, okay, I don't spend time on that, Mom. And she's like, well, you should, because then you would know this happened, that happened, so-and-so got engaged. So, even people who didn't grow up with it are computer literate. And of course, the people who are young and being born and going on iPads. And I had this one friend whose child who was 2, he was holding his 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old went like this to Dad, which was like turning him off, like he's an iPad, like I've had enough. And so it's like part of their life now, right? It's not about screen time, but it's about the things that happen on the computer are now ingrained in their movements. So I believe we won't say cyber in the future, but it will be ingrained in how we act and how we think and how we portray ourselves in our lives. And it feels like right now people are sort of like, I'm online or I'm not online. Everyone's online in some fashion. So again, I don't think we'll say those things. We won't differentiate in the future between your online sort of life and your real life. It's always been that way, that you portray yourself in public, which may have been physically in public instead of online, that you gave a good story, you didn't tell all your bad, things that happened in your house or your brother or your mom or something. And so, the fact that people go online and give a false sense of their life, they did that all the time. They just now can do it to maybe a broader audience. So I just think that in the future, everyone will need to be cyber aware, whether they're in the profession or not.
So I think the future has a lot to do with collaboration and cooperation. So before, companies were inside their own silos, and now we can see that technology is evolving in both sides about threats and about defenses too. And to keep up with that, we need to share threat intelligence, share strategies, share the way that we are fighting that. So as much as we can collaborate with our peers, I think that we can have better results. So we see some initiatives like MISP about even groups that talk about that. For example, in Brazil, we have a big campaign related to ransomware in retail companies, and each company that was targeted, as soon as we can find IOCs, we were sharing with people because everybody was afraid about that. So no one would like to be targeted. And as soon as we can share the intelligence that we have, it's better for everyone. Because like the bad guys are doing that, we need to do that too.
Loaded question. Future of cybersecurity. I agree with what Kelley is saying, which is that cyber is the medium, security is the practice. And so perhaps the word might change. I mean, we hear things like the metaverse, so there might be something like meta security. I think with the commercialization of space, we're now going to be having more electronics and computing that's going up into space. And so not to get a little too sci-fi here, but I do think that physical environments are going to be something that we have to consider with how we handle our electronics. And I'm not just talking about like the environment of the Earth, but things that come from space as well, like radiation from space and different things like that, especially as we're sending computers up there. And even here, I mean, now we're practicing with quantum computing. You're bringing down the temperature of a computer so that you can control that heat, right? So I think in the future, it's going to, maybe not in 20 years, but like very far ahead, there's going to be more physics involved, I think. Hope that wasn't too sci-fi.
Sci-fi is always exciting. I love to go into sci-fi, and yeah. I would like to add from my side. I think the greatest focus, the greatest opportunities that we have all these resources right now. Yeah, we have online and we have educational resources. We have growing communities in cyber, and one of the things that I showed one of the partners is Hack Student when we educate kids. So educating children, growing that next generation, being part of, like have this mindset already built from the start. And like you said, tell everybody about cybersecurity. You see, maybe it's going to be a bit weird if you just, hey, do you know cybersecurity? But yeah, if you have opportunity, talk about this. This is what we also call sometimes as champions, security champions at the company in your life, right? So be the champion and evangelize the topic, right? So thank you so much for your participation. And if you have questions, I'll open now. So you can raise a hand and ask a question. I'll repeat so that our audience online can also hear the question, and then I will turn to our panelists. So who would like to go first?
Oh man. Okay. So I'm new to cyber. Thank you. Try. The struggle that I'm facing, and I feel like a lot of people that would want to come into cyber, is figuring out where to go in cyber. There's so many domains. Everyone tells you pick your passion. I'm passionate about everything. I want to learn about identity access management. I want to do AppSec. I want to do cyber strategy work. So what advice would you give to someone like me, where to go or how to channel that energy or figure out my passion?
Who would like to take that question? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a great problem to have, right? That you have a lot of interest. And so I would caution you, there's no wrong answer, right? It's such a wonderful field and there are so many opportunities. If you truly want to have breadth in your career, you may want to stay in smaller companies where you'll get involved in more things. If you go into a large company, like say one of the major banks in Canada, and you go into the cyber area, you will be put into a smaller area. You may get to move to different specialties, but because the teams are so large, you will have more of one focus, which is not bad, right? Like you can get really deep in one area of focus and then you can move into another area. So it's sort of picking what's the step after this step that will help you make the right first step. So if I go to a small company and I have a broad mandate, I may love that, but where will I go next? Will I be able to find that second step? So always think the second step ahead.
Yeah, for sure. That's great advice. Yeah, the cybersecurity field is so broad. Like in the span of a few years, I've held a role in offensive security remediation to incident management. So I was an incident commander, I guess, and then in application security, and that's a lot of different areas in a few short years. But I just wanted to emphasize as well, that there is no wrong answer. You might end up applying for a role and not really being sure if you would be interested in that or not. But until you actually live the role, you won't really know. So I'd say don't be afraid if you see something that you're not quite sure about. Just keep being curious, keep learning, because there are so many opportunities, and the field just keeps getting larger, and new roles and new departments keep getting created. So I don't really know what the next role might actually end up being. Anyone else?
Something I tell students when they're trying to learn something new, especially like programming, like they'll come and say, I don't know what language I want to learn, or I don't know where to start. I say, well, pick a project. And that's something that's just helped me personally. In fact, that's how I got involved in IT in general. I mean, I came across this thing called a Crazy Fly. It's this little open source circuit for a drone. And I saw it and I was like, I want to learn how to make that thing fly. And it got me involved in learning like basic commands in Linux, and then it took it a little further and being able to learn a little bit more about electronics, and it goes further and further. So as they've mentioned here, let your curiosity drive you.
And sometimes you can feel a bit overwhelmed with that much things that you need to study. So think that knowledge is something that you build every day. So even when you feel like that, like study routine is good. So step by step, sometimes you won't feel like you did a lot of progress, but another day it will be totally different. And when you practice that, it helps a lot to keep the knowledge inside you. So it's different from theory. It's like if you are looking for more knowledge in about information security in different operational systems, for example, build your do labs. So try things different. Try to do that in different ways. So it's so good to keep the knowledge that you have.
Who's next? Okay, I will come by his microphone.
Hi, I'm also somewhat new to cyber. I just have a question about certifications. There's so many people that have certifications. There's so many certifications out there. And then I guess I've read something on LinkedIn, and I can't remember the company, although everybody in this room probably knows about the kids that, or the teenagers that hacked into something just recently, and there's people who've been questioning it. Yes, sorry, that was it.
Thanks.
So, just viewpoints on that, please.
Great. Victoria.
Yes, there are differing opinions, but I'll offer you mine. I love certifications. When I first got into cyber, when I was doing the program in New York, that was based on the CISSP, which, as some of you might know, is a really intense, really intense exam. It's like the golden standard, right, for cybersecurity. Mile wide, inch deep kind of material. It was really overwhelming, but really, really cool. So that actually gave me exposure to a ton of all the domains, exposure to all the domains. And then I saw that which areas I was really interested in. So in my case, I love certifications. It helped me a lot to get exposure to this kind of stuff. But also attending events was very useful, because then I could see like practical applications or real stories from those domains. So in combination, that was, so I really, CISSP was very helpful to me. The CISA as well, which is the auditor certification, was also very helpful, gave me a different perspective. So I really enjoy certifications. I thought that they were very helpful to me personally, and I've heard other stories like that as well. But I know that there are differences of opinion, so I will pass the. Okay.
I also like certifications. I don't know, they're fun. Like personally, it's like as a challenge, it's like, can I pass this or not, right? Can I take this? But then you also get the reward of learning through it and then meeting other people as well too. And in fact, in the process of going into cybersecurity and looking for certifications, there's this great Discord channel called Certification Station. You can look it up online, and they have a bunch of different certifications. By the way, I'm not promoting any specific ones. I'm just sharing what I've encountered. But they have a lot of groups that talk about their certification process and the certification journey. Another one is CompTIA. Again, I'm not promoting CompTIA in any way, but they do have this great like map, this tree map, where like different roles that you can have and the certifications that you need that can satisfy those roles.
So we have a lot of certifications about cybersecurity, about operations development. So I think that it's nice to build the basis first, like doing ISF, Security Plus, Pentest Plus, and after picking a specific subject and trying to specialize with that. So each one a different path. So you don't need to go directly to CISP. You can do like baby steps and give like being more comfortable with that before picking on that hard.
Can I add to that? No, I agree. It depends on what path you want to take. And also if you want to see yourself more as a specialist or a generalist, like CSSP, super broad, get exposure to a lot of different things. Other certifications like, the pen testing or offensive security certification, OSCP, super technical, super intense into one specific domain in cybersecurity. So yeah, that could help too. But meeting more, networking is my biggest, advice is meet more people and see what resonates with you. But yes, I'm very passionate about this topic. Thank you for the question.
I like what Gabriel mentioned, and I also say knowledge is the reward, right? Whatever you take the training certification, you will learn a lot, right? And of course, applying that later on on your job is going to be important skill. Yeah, well, thank you for that answer and for that question. Do we have more questions? One more. Let's.
Perspective on the lapses. Is that what the lapses hack and about I'm assuming kids that probably don't have a bunch of certifications being able to do some basic hacking and to get into networks. Like, just thoughts around that.
Can I say something?
Sure. Yeah. Please.
Hack the box.
Yes.
That's a tool to learn. Script kiddies? Yeah.
I don't know too much about the attack you're referring to, but sometimes there's this term called script kiddies where essentially they just buy out of the box tools to be able to do attacks. But there are some very talented, very, very talented individuals out there that I've met who do not take any certification, and they just have that talent and curiosity. Part of it is that curiosity where they just go in and poke around. It's like, what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And there's people who get hired to test those things. Like in electronics, there's people who test the electronics to see, okay, well, how else can I alter the programming that's actually in here, right? Can I break into it physically? And it's funny because they'll come back and say, oh yeah, I was able to do it this way. It's like, who would have ever done that? It's like, well, I did it, right?
So when we think about these groups, we need to realize that we have a lot of automation in the bad side too. For example, we can see metaexploit. For example, it's something that you can use to learn, but you can use to do bad things too. And we have exploits that are public. We have tutorials in YouTube, so you can look for that and take this kind of information and try to attack someone. So, for example, when we talk about ransomware, a lot of times we see groups using Cobalt Strike. So it's a framework for pen testing, but bad guys are using to do ransomware. So we have all these tools, and when we learn how to use these tools, even if you are young or if you have more than 20 years in the field, you can do that. So it has a lot to do with curiosity too.
Do you have anything or good? Okay. Yeah, the tools there are plenty of tools. Yeah, like I mentioned, hack the box, Jew shop, depending where you wanna excel. Yeah. Okay, one more question. Okay.
I think a lot of us probably don't come from cybersecurity backgrounds, but we're like enthusiastic about it. So what would you recommend kind of looking for when you're looking for that entry level job, and then you're kind of looking at all of these titles and like, I don't know how to get into this thing. So what title would you search for like someone who's entry level, who's learning all these things, who's trying to get that certification to try to achieve? I guess that's.
Kelley?
You're asking, like, once you're in a job, how do you move into a cyber team? Yeah, so I'm not an expert in what all the job titles are that are going to be at entry level, but I will give you some advice, and I'll build on the comment made earlier about LinkedIn. Like, you guys will not believe how generous people are on LinkedIn with their time and with their information, especially if you have a specific question. So people will send me stuff, and if I don't know what the question is, I can very easily scroll past it. I think, I don't know you, I don't understand your question, you're wasting my time. But if you send me a really specific question that said, I see you work at this company, what's the entry level role for a cyber uh, person to join your company, or what are the entry level titles that you have in your technology team, or what, I would probably answer you without knowing you, without knowing anything about you. I would probably answer. If you look up people who are VP of cyber or VP of IT security or something like that, and just ask, like, I don't even know the names of them, but you could find them, I could find them tomorrow, right? Who's the VP of IT security at Royal Bank? I don't know, but I'm sure they're on LinkedIn. And I'm sure if you sent them that question, they would probably answer you. I don't know. Everyone's not nice, but most people are nice in small snippets at least, right? So if you just ask that question to 10 or 20 people who were on LinkedIn, they will probably tell you. Is it called a cyber analyst? Is it called a cyber coordinator? I don't know, but they would probably tell you. And then you look for those sort of titles in those job postings. But the internet is a great thing if you use it properly. It can be a horrible thing used improperly, but there are lots of ways to do searches for that. Like entry level, cyber, you will probably get a bunch of titles that come up on job boards. And sorry, if you're in a company, easier, right? You can just say, I wanted to move into the cyber team. What do you suggest? And people will help you.
Sorry, thank you, Kelley. And to build on what Kelley was saying, I want to mention that when you actually end up reading the job titles and the job descriptions, focus more on the job descriptions and what they're trying to communicate in terms of the day-to-day or what kind of role it is. And because a lot of the jobs will say, we need X amount of years, we need this many certifications for this entry-level job sometimes. So I found it's super helpful for me not to get intimidated by those kind of description titles and year requirements. Is really understanding what are they trying to do here, what kind of skill set do they need, do I have that skill set, and does it resonate with me? Oh, like this, for example, this one requires communication from business lines, being a bridge between business and technology. I can do that. That's awesome. It sounds like more like a generalist role. Makes sense to me. So that really helped me, because the roles that I have applied to in the past, not always did I, meet the year requirements or, the technical requirements that were, preferred. You need to, sometimes it's the people who write the job descriptions aren't always the hiring manager, and things get lost in translation very frequently. So try not to be intimidated by that. Just go for it. Whatever resonates, just go for it, try it. Meet people from that company, network, learn more. Don't let that deter you. Everyone's good? Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for participating in the panel and sharing your experience. It's very valuable, and for everybody who participated here. Oh, okay. Let's do it. Do we need to speak the question? Sure. But I'll give my microphone to Kelley.
Will cyber drills, like fire drills, is that the essence of it? Okay, I'll break my neck. Wow, what an awesome question. Because at first I thought you meant within a company, but they're talking more broadly than that. I don't know if they'll become the norm, but I think that it would be helpful. And I think everyone in this room would think that. I think within companies, it is becoming more and more the norm. And we talk about tabletop activities, and we have incident, we don't call them fire drills, but maybe we should. So, would we do that for citizens? I don't know that we would. I think there's probably some logistics around that risk management side that cities may be nervous about, that they may cause panic that they didn't intend to. But education and helping citizens be more informed and better protect themselves is coming, is happening. And I don't know if everyone in this room is aware. You probably are because you're quite educated group of people, but banks in general and other companies are starting this too, are taking a more progressive stance in educating their customers, but also replacing the risk ratio. So there are a lot of things that happen at a bank that you can call and say, my card was compromised, and you get covered by the bank's insurance or their policies. When you sign up for credit cards now, I won't get the words exactly right, but there's words in there now that say if you use a crappy password or you share your password with other people, we no longer protect you because you're not protecting yourself. And no one reads it. It's 40 pages of stuff, and you go, yeah, I just need my credit card, right? But they're starting to put that onus on customers, but they're not allowed to do that without educating customers. And I think we're going to see that more and more, where the customer used to get protected because the companies had protection behind the scenes with cyber insurance and things like that. But that balance of power is shifting. With it comes education. So a cyber fire drill, awesome idea.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks, Aditya, for helping. That's streaming, and everybody for coming. So are we going to go offline now? Yeah. Well, thanks, everybody, for watching. And thank you for